Yeah. Check the microphone, 1, 2. Look up at the sky, see the fireworks. They tell us it's the land of the free, the home of the brave. But freedom looks different depending on the zip code you standing in. Some of us look at the flag and just see the bars of a cage. Listen closely to the rhythm of the suppressed. Let's go. I pledge allegiance to the struggle, to the concrete and the pain, where the concept of our liberty circling down the drain. They painted up the monument in glorious red, white, and blue, but neglected to inform us that the dream was never true. For the marginalized walking through the shadows of the street, every patriotic anthem sounds like orchestrated deceit. They handed us a document, declared that all men are equal, but daily life in the ghetto is a devastating prequel to the prison industrial complex, the modern auction block, where the melanin is targeted around a ticking clock. We navigate the neighborhoods infested by the systemic blight, where the sirens sing a lullaby throughout the violent night. It's a beautiful side, a cinematic masterpiece of fiction, designed to match the horrors of a geographical restriction. Freedom is a state of mind. Yeah, it's the stars, the stripes, and the heavy iron shackles. Listening to the politician while he constantly tackles. They selling us a liberty that we can never truly touch, using the criminal justice system as an institutional crutch. The eagle flies high above the smog and the earth and decay, but the people on the pavement are just struggling to survive today. Let's take a little journey down the avenues of the forgotten, where the fruits of the American harvest are fundamentally rotten. Redlining the districts, keeping the communities permanently segregated, making sure the generational wealth is completely obliterated. You step into the courtroom, the scales of justice are heavily tipped, watching another innocent brother getting his entire future stripped. They talk about the amendments, the freedom of the public speech, but put a knee upon our neck when the power is out of their reach. The schools are underfunded, functioning exactly like a pipeline, leading directly to the penitentiary right across the state line. We supposed to be emancipated, liberated from the ancient chains, but the psychological trauma of the century still remains. They built the shining capital upon the bones of the indigenous, and treat the current minorities like we are something venomous. The true face of the republic is hidden behind the velvet curtain, where the only thing that a minority can ever be truly certain. Yeah, it's the stars, the stripes, and the heavy iron shackles. Listening to the politician while he constantly tackles. They selling us a liberty that we can never truly touch, using the criminal justice system as an institutional crutch. The eagle flies high above the smog and the velvet decay, but the people on the pavement are just struggling to survive today. Yeah, the illusion of liberty. You can't chain the mind though. That's where the real revolution starts. Tearing down the invisible walls built by the corrupt system. Then every one of the sister feeling the weight of a heavy flag. Keep your vision clear, keep your immortal soul fully intact. We writing our own declaration in the middle of the dark night. Dark night, raw hip-hop, golden era style. Speaking the undeniable truth. The beat fades out slowly with a lingering dusty bass note, and the sound of chains dropping. A heart so wild, one don't know man is safe from. Yeah. If he find a scratch. So the night cool. If he find a scratch. Turn the snare up a little bit. If he find a scratch. Look out the window, man. What do you see? It ain't a community no more, it's a designated perimeter. They treating the block like an active combat zone. We just civilians, but we caught in the crosshairs. Listen to the rhythm of the occupation. Let's go. I step out my building, the atmosphere is incredibly tense. Surrounded by the tactics of the national fence. They traded the squad cars for the armored personal carriers, erecting these psychological and physical barriers. This ain't Fallujah, this is Brooklyn, this is the South Side. But they rolling through the intersections on a militant ride. I see the camouflage fatigues, the AR-15 assault rifles, treating our constitutional rights as if they were trifles. Whatever happened to the officer walking the local beat? Now it's a paramilitary force patrolling the concrete. They got the night vision goggles and the tactical gear, manufacturing a constant state of paranoia and fear. The sirens are wailing, the flashbangs igniting the pitch black. Another no-knock warrant, another unprovoked sneak attack. I document the struggle with the ink inside my reservoir, reporting live from the front lines of this domestic street war. Politicians are complicit, signing the bloated legislation, funding the endless cycle of the urban devastation. They handing out the tanks like they handing out the candy, keeping the automatic weapons incredibly close and handy. They say it's for the safety, the prevention of the terrorism, but all I see is the devastating impact of their extremism. Yeah, they using trigger man tactics in the civilian zone, treating the metropolitan city like an overseas throne. They marching with the infantry, the heavy artillery boots, funding the tapestry of liberty right down to the roots. We screaming for justice, but the response is the tear gas. Watching the armored divisions and the riot squads go past. This ain't protection, this is a calculated intimidation, the systematic militarization of a frightened nation. I'm analyzing the psychology, the warrior cop mentality, where every single citizen is a threat to their mortality. They sit in a seminar learning how to be the EX predator, acting like a supreme judge, jury, and the execution of the badge is a shield of absolute and question immunity, severing every single tie they ever had with the community. We paying the taxes to fund our own brutal oppression, while they treating our neighborhoods like a tactical possession. The helicopters hovering, spotlight beaming on the pavement. Another innocent brother getting locked in the enslavement of the prison industrial complex, the modern day plantation, fueled by the aggressive relation and the constant escalation. They got the sound cannons ready to shatter our eardrums, mobilizing our battalions whenever the protest comes. I'm writing the thesis, exposing the entire grand illusion, fighting the militant force with a lyrical revolution. It's an occupying army, a hostile force in the vicinity, stripping away the last remnants of our human dignity. When a mental health crisis is met with a lethal bullet, you know the system is broken and it's time for us to pull it down from the foundation, dismantle the oppressive machinery, restore the actual peace to the metropole of this scenery. They got the snipers positioned upon the roofs of the city, looking down at the populace without a single ounce of pity. We traded our civil liberties for an illusion of security. Now we facing the barrel of a gun and losing our purity. The Constitution is burning right in the back of the cruiser. In this game of warfare, the citizen is always the pooper. We don't need the snipers, we don't need the tactical squads, we don't need the officers acting like they are immortal gods. Yeah, they're using trigger man tactics. It's an illusion of safety. They brought the war back home and they fighting us, but the spirit of the people can never be occupied. We see through the camouflage, we see through the tactical gear. This is for every block under siege, every city holding on tightly. Put down the weapons, pick up the humanity. We out. Yeah. Yo, check the frequency, 1, 2. 1, 2. They dressing up the lies in expensive silk suits, man. Every 4 years, it's the exact same theatrical production. They come down to the neighborhood, shaking hands, kissing babies. But Once the curtain falls and the ballot boxes are sealed, nothing changes but the name on the desk. Look past the teleprompter. Family see the grand illusion. The candidate steps up to the podium, teeth gleaming like bright neon lights, promising the crowded auditorium that he's gonna fix our basic human rights. He speaks of economic resurrection, affordable health care for the working poor, while his campaign funds are quietly wired from a corporate boardroom door. It's a beautifully orchestrated choreography, a masterclass in mass deception, designed to capture your vulnerable vote and manipulate your daily perception. They write the scripts with calculated keywords to trigger a passion, a response, flashing artificial smiles for the cameras, fulfilling what the media truly wants. But look beneath the surface of the grand platform, analyze the fine print. The whole political circus is just a money-making, power-grabbing blueprint. They make a solemn pledge to rebuild the schools and clear out the city slums. But when the inauguration passes, the only thing that actually truly comes is another massive budget cut, another tax break for the elite on Wall Street. I'm like a street journalist dissecting the rhetoric, exposing fake statistics. It's the Oval Office illusions, the magic trick performed upon the global stage, keeping the entire population trapped inside a modern psychological cage. They sell you a beautiful dream, but deliver a devastating living nightmare, pretending to represent the people while they sit in their presidential chair. Yeah, it's a vicious cycle of betrayal. Brave political theater of deceit. Now he's sitting in the resolute desk, surrounded by the Secret Service guard, completely detached from the harsh reality of the people working twice as hard. The passionate speeches about a higher minimum wage are suddenly locked away, replaced by backroom political compromises and a massive defense spending display. They told us they would end the foreign wars and bring the brave soldiers back home, but now they're sending more tactical drones across the global midnight dome. It's a classic bait and switch operation, a deeply institutionalized hustle, using the hopeful desires of the voters to build up their own legislative muscle. I see the disillusionment settling deep inside the eyes of the community elders, who watch the exact same promises fall apart from the miners to the welders. It's the Oval Office illusions, the magic trick performed upon the global stage, keeping the entire population trapped inside a modern psychological cage. They sell you a beautiful dream, but deliver a devastating living nightmare, pretending to represent the people while they sit in their presidential chair. Yeah, it's a vicious cycle of betrayal. Mirroring political theater of deceit. Yeah, Oval Office illusions. They think they can fool us every single time, but the golden era of blind faith is officially over. We see the corporate strings pulling the puppets' arms. No more false prophets, no more empty ballots. Keep your eyes wide open. Don't let the flashing lights blind your vision. Stay true to the roots. Stay resilient, focus on the final mission. Yeah, look at the skyline from over here. Two completely different worlds separated by a river of concrete. Down on Lower Manhattan, they counting millions in pristine glass towers. But out here on my block, we counting pennies just to survive the freezing hours. Ticker tapes versus the pavement grind, silk make rise versus the ultimate hustle. They speculate on our lives while we build the muscle. Check the panoramic view, check the contrast. Listen up close. They waking up at dawn inside the high-rise luxury apartment view. Sipping expensive espresso, planning which corporate stocks to buy and move. A sleek black town car waiting downstairs to cruise the financial district, where the wealth is completely abstract and the greed is entirely sadistic. They playing with the billions on a flashing digital monitor display, making a lifetime of fortune while staring out at the harbor gray. But step across the train tracks, take a ride to the outer borough block, where the young brothers are standing on the corner watching the ticking clock. We ain't got no portfolios, no venture capital funds to back our dreams. Just a heavy bag of ambition and a mind full of dangerous street schemes. The youth are out here hustling, selling loose cigarettes and vintage clothes.
Living on the edge of the block.
It's Wall Street versus my street. The digital numbers against the solid concrete, where the brokers are drinking champagne while the youth are pacing on the street. They gamble with the economy inside the majestic marble floored hall, leaving the outskirts to crumble while they build up their invisible defensive wall. Yeah, it's a tale of two distinct cities, a devastating economic division, exposing the contrast of the American dream through a raw, adapted lady vision. The broker checks his watch, signing another multi-million-dollar merger deal. Completely blind to the heavy hunger that the kids in the tenements actually feel. He receives a government bailout when his risky investments begin to fail. While a kid from my block gets 10 years in a maximum security prison jail for trying to flip a $20 bag just to pay his mother's overdue rent. A stark reminder of how the legislative funding is selectively spent. The corporate media praises the rising numbers of the Udustrian and Bow Jones, while the local clinic is shutting down, ignoring the community's groans. We got the brilliant minds out here, natural marketing strategists, trapped in a cycle of survivals, crossed off the politicians' campaign list. They use our culture for profit, packaging the street struggle for the elite.
Living on the edge of the block.
The small street versus my street. Digital numbers against the solid concrete, where the brokers are drinking champagne while the youth are pacing on the street. They gamble with the economy inside the majestic marble floored hall, leaving the outskirts to crumble while they build up their invisible defensive walls. Yeah, it's a tale of two distinct cities, a devastating economic division, exposing the contrast of the American dream through a raw apocalyptic vision. Yeah, Wall Street versus my street. They talk about the free market, but the game is completely rigged from the jump. But you can't gentrify the spirit, you can't liquidate the soul. To every young hustler out there making a way out of absolutely nothing. Keep your integrity sharp, keep your eyes on the real asset. Authentic street journalism. We out.
Dipping on the edge of the block. Dipping on the edge of the block. Dipping on the edge of the block. Dipping on the edge of the block.
Yeah, yo, to tell you about the freedom while they count your coins. System built on contradiction, manufactured noise. Subscription to existence, got you paying for the air. Application fees for living, pyramid schemes everywhere. Wake up in the matrix where the debt's your only friend. Credit score determine if your struggle ever ends. They packaging the dreams and selling it back to your algorithm, calculating how much they extracting from you. Rent the earth you standing on, don't own the ground beneath. Dental work costs thousands just to show your healthy teeth. Insulin and medicine, they marked up triple price. Pharmacies, a casino, yeah, your life is rolling dice. Pension plans evaporating, futures turn to dust. Education system broken, yeah, they taking all your trust. Student loans like shackles, economic slavery rebrand. Graduated broke already, welcome to the land. It's the land of the free, with nothing free. Everything got a price, nothing come for free. Land of the free, bleeding you dry. Every breath you take, somebody getting paid, that's why. Land of the free, land of the free. Coffee cup got a tip jar, even dreams ain't free. Corporations feeding, yeah, the system's overseas. Welcome to the land of the free. Bureaucratic monsters wearing three-piece suits and ties. Lobbyists in Congress pushing corporate compromise. Healthcare is a business, profit over people's pain. Pharmaceutical companies dancing in the champagne rain. They got you on a treadmill, running but you standing still. Mortgage on a future that you'll never pay until you 6 feet under, then they auction off your estate. Generational wealth transfer only for the gate. Streaming all your content, but the artist getting crumbs. Exploited distribution, yeah, the algorithm numbs your consciousness to patterns, buying things you don't need. Marketing psychology, planting every seed. Gig economies iconic, call it freedom when you starve. Hustle culture propaganda, yeah, they playing on your heart. No benefits, no pension, just a Tim Aggie not far. Period existence, that's the modern economic norm. Social media metrics measuring your worth and your soul. Attention is commodity that they trying to control. Data mining operations underneath your fingertips. Personal information flowing from your lips. Land of the free, the great illusion. Freedom wrapped up in a corporate delusion. Land of the free, the price keeps climbing. Wage stagnation while the 1% shining. Land of the free, and we just accepting normalized extraction without ever protecting our collective future. Yeah, it's time to start protesting. Welcome to the land of the free, the endless harvest. They invented planned obsolescence, build it just to break. Throw away the planet for a quarterly intake. Fast fashion casualties, sweatshop misery. Your t-shirt came from suffering, they don't want you to see. Banking fees on banking fees, them all just never end. Overdraft protection while they getting dividends. 41K illusions, pensions disappearing fast. Inequality expanding, yeah, the die being cast. Education cost inflation, make your brain a debt machine. Tuition rising faster than your salary's been seen. Compound interest eating all your economic hope. Financial instruments constructed just to make you broke. Pharmaceutical addiction, yeah, they pushing pills for peace. While the root causes of your suffering keep increasing. Mental health commodified, therapy's expensive too. Can't afford to heal, the system's breaking you in two. They globalize the labor, but the profit stays stateside. Corporate tax avoidance while the working people's tried. Outsource your security for quarterly returns. Middle class combustion, watching everything burn. Land of the free, land of the free. Everybody looking for something that's free. Land of the free, land of the free. Can't buy your way out, that's the guarantee. Land of the free, land of the free. Charging you for breathing underneath the tree. Land of the free, land of the free. This is the reality, the dark decree.
Electro crackle. Electro crackle.
Yeah. Wake up, clock in, clock out the everyday cycle. They tell you hard work pays off, right? But take a closer look at that pay stub, my brother. See the ghost in the machine taking a massive bite before you even eat. We building a city, we can't even afford the rent. Listen to the math of the streets. It's the grandest heist in history. Let the beat ride for a second, yeah. Check the legend, yeah.
The electro crackle. The electro crackle.
I hit the alarm clock at 5 in the morning, the air is freezing cold. Another day of trading my physical prime until I'm weak and old. I put the boots on, lace them up tight, head out into the industrial grade, grinding for a minimum wage just to keep the aggressive debt collectors away. We work 40 hours, 50 hours, sweating right through the heavy flannel shirt, digging our hands deep into the concrete, the gravel and the bitter dirt. But Friday finally comes around, the foreman hands over the sealed envelope. I rip it open, hoping for a little financial breathing room, a tiny sliver of hope. But the gross pay and the net pay look like two completely different dimensions, stripped down to the bone by the federal taxes and the mandatory state extensions. FICA, Medicare, the local taxes, the phantom man reaches right into the pocket, draining the rocket fuel before a working man can even attempt to launch the rocket.
Take the money and run, the system is a setup.
The system is a setup.
Take the money and run, the system is a setup.
It's Uncle Sam's scam, the ultimate hustle, played upon the working class. Watching the hard-earned dollars disappear like the sand inside an hourglass. They tax the labor, they tax the property, they even tax the things we gotta buy. While the billionaires are finding the loopholes, watching their profits multiply. Yeah, we carrying the heavy burden, holding the foundation of the nation up. Now let's examine the penthouse suites, the corporate titans in the boardroom chairs. They shifting their massive profits to offshore accounts to avoid the IRS snares. They got the elite accountants, the expensive lawyers writing the legislative text, creating an infinite tax shelter so their enormous wealth is never truly vexed. They claim the private jets as a business expense, writing off the luxury yachts, while the government is sending the auditors to investigate our little empty pots. If I miss a single payment, they hit me with the penalties, the devastating fees, threatening to seize the meager assets and bring a working father down to his knees. But the massive corporations get the subsidies, the bailouts when the market falls, socializing all the massive losses while they privatizing the profits in the holes. It's a two-sided system of justice, a bureaucratic labyrinth designed to confuse.
Take the money and run, the system is a setup.
The system is a setup.
Take the money and run, the system is a setup.
It's Uncle Sam's scam, the ultimate hustle, played upon the working class. Watching the hard-earned dollars disappear like the sand inside an hourglass. They tax the labor, they tax the property, they even tax the things we gotta buy. While the billionaires are finding the loopholes, watching their profits multiply. Yeah, we carrying the heavy burden, holding the foundation of the nation up. Nation up, nation up, nation up, nation up.
The electric blackboard is flipped on your thumb.
Uncle Sam's scam, taking the store game in town. They think we don't see the numbers, they think we can't do the math. The streets are educated now, we reading the blueprints to every brother and sister working the double shift. Keep your head up. We see the system, we know the game. The true wealth is in the mind, the spirit, and the community. They can tax the paycheck, but they can never tax the soul. But they can never tax the soul. But they can never tax the soul. They can never tax the soul. But they can never tax the soul. But they can never tax the soul.
The biggest foreign game in town.
They think we don't see the numbers, they know we can't do the business. The streets are educated now, we reading the blueprints to every brick of himself, working the double shift. Keep your head up.
We see the system, we know the game. True wealth is in the mind, the spirit, and the community. They can tax the paycheck, but they can never tax the soul.
But they can never tax the soul.
industrial factory noise fades into a dusty chop soul vocal loop. Rough on quantized, boom-bap, grummy chopper. Accompanied by sharp body, trap. Accompanied by sharp body. Check the mic, turn the bass up just a little bit. Press record on this one. We immortalizing the struggle. This is for the heavy lifters, the midnight shifters, the ones wearing the steel-toed boots with the worn-out soles. They call it a living wage, but ain't nobody actually living. We just surviving on the margins, sweating for the fractions. Let the rhythm tell the story of the blue-collar grind. Listen. I punch the heavy time card right at 6 in the morning. Sky's still pitch black, my exhausted body is yawning. Grab the thermos of coffee, it's lukewarm and incredibly bitter. Step a moment to the face of flick, observing the city letter. I flip my hands on the machinery, feeling the cold steel vibration. I will the gruel and slip note in the backbone of this wealthy nation. The super five are born orders from inside this climate control box, where we breaking our apps, your backs lifting the heavy cinder blocks. I do the complex mathematics inside my head while I swing a ladder, trap inside the economic cell of a capitalistic slammer. $10 an hour, maybe 15 if the union fought hard, but the inflation is steadily swiping the balance off my debit card. I go to the grocery store looking at the price of basic milk and bread.
Can't catch a break. Can't catch a break.
Just the minimum wage madness, the blue collar ultimate curse. Watching the paycheck evaporate from the incredibly empty purse. They squeezing every ounce of the energy straight from my aching spine, leaving us completely stranded right behind the arbitrary poverty line. We building the majestic mansions, but we sleeping in the crowded slums, waiting patiently at the corporate table just to gather the fallen crumbs. The CEO just bought another imported luxury vehicle for his teenage son, while my dilapidated station wagon I gotta pay the thing to even run. I need a new transmission, but I gotta pay the exorbitant heating bill. It's a constant psychological battle, a devastatingly bitter pill. They tell us to pull ourselves up by the legendary rugged bootstraps, but they deliberately design a system with these inescapable traps. If I take a single day off to heal my severely injured lower back, I fall completely behind on the mortgage and face the aggressive attacks of the predatory collection agencies calling my phone throughout the night, adding to the overwhelming anxiety and the perpetual internal fight. They tax the heavy overtime, taking a massive chunk of the extra sweat, ensuring that the working man remains submerged in the ocean of debt. Can't catch a break. Can't catch a break. Can't catch a break. Can't catch a break. This living minimum wage madness. The blue collar ultimate curse. Watching the paycheck evaporate from the incredibly empty purse. They squeezing every ounce of the energy straight from our aching spine, leaving us completely stranded right behind the arbitrary poverty line. We building the majestic mansions, but we sleeping in the crowded slums, waiting patiently at the corporate table just to gather the fallen crumbs. Yeah, the minimum wage madness. You can't sustain a towering empire by starving the essential foundation. So everybody clocking it for the graveyard shift right now. Keep your spirit completely unbreakable. Keep your mind extremely sharp. We putting this on the record. Documenting the authentic struggle forever. No illusions. Just the raw, unfiltered truth of the everyday pavement. Boom-bap philosophy. Yeah. Yeah. Turn the monitors up. Let the rhythm breathe a little bit. They brought the blueprints into the neighborhood. Rolled them out on the table. Told us they were gonna beautify the blocks, erase the struggle. But all they did was put a shiny new coat of paint over the ancient pain. It's an architecture illusion, family, a municipal magic trick. Look at the skyline, then look at the sidewalk, two different realities. Listen to the street's perspective, check the design. Let's go. Yeah. The central government rolled through in their dark tinted luxury fleets, selling a manufactured paradise to the residents of these forgotten streets. They brought the glossy presentation boards, the digital 3D renderings, promising a bright and renewal, but ignoring the community suffering. They spoke of subsidized housing units, the brand new recreational parks, but the fine print in the contract was written by the bureaucratic sharks. First came the eminent domain, the sudden letters arriving in the mail, forcing the generational families to suddenly pack up their bags and bail. The bulldozers arrived at dawn, tearing down the historical corner store, erasing the cultural monuments that the local people absolutely adore. They replaced the vibrant neighborhood with a sterile dystopian grid.
Tear it down. Blood of a broken promise. The subsidized sorrow, the sweet lies hidden inside the master plan.
Eradicating the rich history of the struggling everyday working man. They cover up the deep poverty with the expensive botanical trees, while the actual population is completely brought down to their knees. Yeah, they building up a fortress of luxury right on top of our tears, manipulating the zoning laws and ignoring our fundamental fears. Now the coffee shops are charging a premium for an artisanal dark roast, while the native inhabitants are wandering around like a displaced ghost. The property taxes skyrocketed straight past the absolute breaking point, dismantling the intricate social fabric of this historic neighborhood joint. The shiny new transit system bypasses the sectors where the poorest reside, creating an invisible boundary line where the deep systemic issues hide. They built a massive stadium using the public taxpayer financial funds, but the community youth are still dodging the violence and the loaded guns. It's a gentrified camouflage, a highly sophisticated structural deceit, sweeping the grim reality completely underneath the expensive, pristine streets. The government officials take their percentage and look the other way.
Tear down. Man, but a broken promise.
It's the subsidized sorrow, the sweet lies hidden inside the master plan. Eradicating the rich history of the struggling everyday working man. They cover up the deep poverty with the expensive botanical trees, while the actual population is completely brought down to their knees. Yeah, they building up a fortress of luxury right on top of our tears, manipulating the zoning laws and ignoring our fundamental fears. Yeah, subsidized sorrow, the ultimate municipal scam. They sold us a beautiful dream, but they delivered a concrete nightmare. You can't pave over the spirit of the people though. The roots go way deeper than their expensive architectural foundations. To everybody fighting the displacement, hold your ground tightly. Keep your eyes on the local council. Don't let them steal your history. Real hip-hop golden era. Boom-bap reflecting the absolute truth. Yeah, check the mic. 1, 2. We're stepping out the shadows with this one. This ain't just a story, this is a bloodline written in the asphalt. We inherited the struggle, but we ain't passing it down. Listen closely. Yeah, I was born into a deficit, a generational debt, where the walls are sweating sorrow and the ceiling's a threat. Granddaddy worked a steel mill, coughing up his prime. Father chased a phantom dollar, always out of time. I look into the mirror, see the echoes of their pain, a lineage of empty pockets standing in the cold rain. They handed me a rusted shovel, set to dig a deep grave. But I'm planting seeds of freedom, I refuse to be a slave to the systemic design, the red lines on the map, where my people stay suspended in the poverty trap. I gotta break the damn cycle, put the gears in reverse, turn the blessing from the hustle to demolish the curse.
Yeah, it's the hustle and heritage, the pain and the blood, trying to build a solid mansion from the bricks and the mud. Generations in the darkness, now we reaching for light, through the sirens and the violence of the cold city night.
We break the chain, we flip the script, we rise from the floor, ain't leaving nothing but a legacy of breaking down doors. Down doors. Reminiscing on the kitchen table, pile with the bills. Mama crying in the midnight, relying on prescription pills just to numb the heavy burden of a minimum wage. While I'm capturing the sorrow on this loose leaf page, I saw my cousins turn to hustlers on the avenue blocks, trading long-term survival for the street corners and rocks. It's a vicious little circle, it's a tragic merry-go-round, where the ones who fly the highest are the first in the ground. But I diverted from the pathway, took a pen as my sword. Every metaphor I structure is a heavenly soulful chord. I'm studying the blueprints of the kings of the past, how to make a dollar multiply and actually truly last.
It's the hustle and heritage, the pain and the blood, trying to build a solid mansion from the bricks and the mud. Generations in the darkness, now we reaching for light, through the sirens and the violence of the cold city night.
We break the chain, we flip the script, we rise from the floor, ain't leaving nothing but a legacy of breaking down doors. Down doors. Listen. The tenement buildings are monuments of and decay, where the sunlight barely pierces through the industrial gray. I carry the DNA of survivors, the absolute toughest of breeds, who were given barren soil but still sprouted desired the seeds. My great-grandmother toiled, her hands bleeding and torn, and that resilience is the fabric of the day I was ever born. I feel a spirit in the rhythm when the boom-bap heavily hits. They didn't suffer through the decades just for me to give up, but to drown my immense potential in a cheap liquor-full cup. We moving tactical, practical, steadily building the wealth. It's the complete metamorphosis of pain and the absolute power, watching the concrete rose finally blossom into a flower.
It's the hustle and heritage, the pain and the blood, trying to build a solid mansion from the bricks and the mud. Generations in the darkness, now we reaching for light, through the sirens and the violence of the cold city night.
We break the chain, we flip the script, we rise from the floor, ain't leaving nothing but a legacy of breaking down doors. Down doors. Yeah, we finally broke the chain. For the grandfathers, the grandmothers, for the sons and the beautiful daughters. The wealth is in the mind first, in the pocket. Concrete bloodlines. We are built completely different. This is for every single kid looking out the window dreaming. No more curses, only legacies. Never going back, we moving forward.
Towers in the smog.
Yeah,
Boulevard of broken promises, avenue of pain, where the rain don't cleanse the dirt, just add another stain. I've been walking through these streets since I was young and dumb. Now I'm older, slightly colder, but the struggle's just begun. Yellow tape marks where the angels fell, concrete pillows. This the modern hell, every got a story that the mainstream media skip. Children watching violence like a never-ending clip. Generation traumatized, baptized in fear. Since they crawled up from the crib, they adapted to the tears. Sirens wail like mothers crying out they sons. Ambulances racing to bury number one. The city infrastructure built for profit, not for peace. Where the wealthy got security, the poor get police. Neighborhoods divided by invisible lines. Zip codes determine if you live or die, baby, that's by design. I seen mothers working double, still can't pay the rent. Government assistance running low, what little you got went. The smog is just pollution from the factories and cars. It's the cloud of hopelessness, obscuring distant stars. They say you got a choice, but the menu stay determined. Poverty or prison, that's the only option given. Sirens in the background like a real Christmas score, playing for the dispossessed and without resource. I'm just another voice echoing the canyon sound, trying to make a difference, but I'm sinking in the ground. Sirens in the smog, waking up the dead. Sirens in the smog, filling hearts with dread. Can you hear it getting closer? Running out of time. Sirens in the smog, that's the LA paradigm. Sirens in the smog, never let you go. Sirens in the smog, that's all that we know. In the city of angels, there ain't no divine. Just sirens in the smog, the sound of the crime. Gentrification coming like a wave across the shore, displacing families that been living there for more than 40 years, building community despite the system trying hard to steal their light. I remember when these neighborhoods had soul. Now it's coffee shops and galleries and condos, taking toll on the culture, on the spirit, on the people that remain. Trading dignity for dollars, trading substance for champagne. The police got a quota, gotta fill they cells, arresting boys for breathing, young men going through hells. Judicial system rigged like a carnival game. You lose either way, playing by their names. They criminalize the struggle, they pathologize the pain, make it seem like poverty's a personal domain, not a structure and arrangement. Centuries and make them run into it, capitalism. Yeah, the system keep on taking. I seen dealers and addicts, both products are the same. Market force that profit off the suffering and shame. Supply meets demand in these forgotten zones, while the architects of ruin sit comfortable in their homes. Toxic air colony, contaminated water lines, cancer rates climbing. They ain't even fighting environmental apartheid. They don't call it that, but the data tell the story in a simple stat fact. The education system setting up our children to fail. Overcrowded classrooms, teachers that up the bail. When they see the funding cuts, the books falling apart. How you build a future when they crushing kids start? Yeah. 365 days a year, the sirens never rest. They just pause and reload for the next distress. Call comes through dispatch, another body on the line, another family broken, another child doing time. Mental illness mixed with trauma, mixed with poverty, create a perfect storm of pure despair and gravity. The healthcare system broken, psychiatry too expensive, millions self-medicating, using streets as intensive care facilities abandoned, privatize the jails. Now the corporations is winning while the communities fail. Recidivism by design, keeping people caught in a cycle that's relentless, can't escape the thought. I see the elderly displaced from neighborhoods they built. Now they sleeping in their cars, carrying that guilt, like somehow they responsible for their own demise. When the system set them up with capitalist lies, the infrastructure crumbling, the bridges falling down. Metaphor for everything that's happening in this town. Foundation built on stolen land and stolen lives. That's the only way the system ever could survive. Sirens, they the soundtrack to the living in a city that ain't giving nothing but the sickness and addiction and affliction and the broken promises and the empty rhetoric and the cynical responses. I've been watching from the corner, taking mental notes, writing down the stories that the evening news denotes. It's just statistics, just numbers, just the price of progress, but behind each number is a person. Yeah, a process of displacement and replacement with a corporate face. The real estate of trauma, yeah, that's this place where dreams come to die in a cloud of smoke, and the sirens in the smog, they're your only hope. The morning comes, the sirens still walk, the sirens still wail. Stories of survival, stories of survival, stories of fail. The morning comes, but the sirens still walk, the sirens still wail. Stories of survival, Stories of survival, stories of fail.